Hey everyone, welcome back to the Your Project Shepherd Construction Podcast. This is our 101st episode. Hopefully you caught our last episode, number 100, with my friends Jeremy and Toner and Matt. It's always a great time to hang out with those guys. And some of today's topic we touched on a little bit last week. So I really wanted to dedicate a whole episode to talking about the why of the podcast. Like, why are we here? Why do I do this podcast every week? What made me decide to want to start this podcast? And so to answer that question, I have to go back a few years and talk about why I started Shepherd Construction Advisors. And Shepherd is the company that runs this podcast. I know it gets a little confusing because I do have two separate companies here. I've got Shepherd, and then I've got Crafted, which is my custom home building company, and there's some overlap there. So I just thought I'd give a little word of explanation about where all this came from. So Crafted has been around now for, this is our 21st year. And actually, we started as Curtis Lawson Homes, switched to Crafted about 7 years ago. But anyway, we've been doing that for about 21 years now. And since we've been around for a long time, we built a really good reputation with architects and engineers and consultants like Toner. And we started getting referred a lot of projects that were having problems. So if an architect or Toner often would come across a project where a homeowner is struggling, a builder's not doing what they're supposed to do, they would refer those projects to Crafted and say, hey, can you step in and take over this project? Or this guy's house is falling apart 2 years after they moved in. Can you take over this project and get it fixed for them? And so we were getting a lot of those kind of referrals. And a lot of builders like to stay away from those projects. And I guess I'm just crazy or dumb enough to say yes and deal with it. And so, I kept noticing the same problems and trends with all these projects. People didn't know how to hire a good builder or architect or designer. They didn't know the right products to be asking for, the right things to be specified on their projects. They didn't know how their contract should be structured, how they should handle payments. And so a lot of times they would get way ahead of the builder on payments, or the builder would get ahead of them, where they'd be way overdrawn out of pocket. And so the builder screws something up. Now the builder has their money. Or people didn't know what to look for to know if the builder was screwing things up. If the architect happened to pop by, they might notice a problem. But a lot of times people would get all the way to the end of a project, have lots of issues, and kind of not find out about it until it's too late. And I think one of the overarching issues here, and I touched on this a few episodes back, talking about sunk costs, is people took way too much or put way too much trust in that builder. And even if they saw the builder making some mistakes, they would just kind of feel like they were stuck in that, like they had to just finish with that builder. So the level of trust was way too high, even though it wasn't being earned. So I had this idea to start this whole other consulting company just to help people with these problems. And I have a good friend in Florida named Chris Furkeron. He was actually the best man at my wedding 25 years ago. Chris owns Costa Custom Homes in Los Angeles. And Chris had been telling me about how he worked with owners reps in Los Angeles. Now, Chris builds real high-end stuff a lot of times, $20, $30, $50 million projects overlooking a cliff or on a cliff overlooking the ocean in California. So he's dealing with a lot of very wealthy people, and a lot of these people have owner's reps. And the role of an owner's rep in residential construction is kind of a foreign concept, at least here in Texas. Some parts of the country, like LA with Chris, or Chicago, New York, it's maybe more common on high-end homes, but here in Houston, even in the high-end community, people don't really understand what an owner's rep does. So what it is the owner of a project, which is the homeowner in our case, or in a commercial project. It could be a company, a church, a school, hospital. Those entities don't have the knowledge or the time. Someone in that organization doesn't have the knowledge or time to be involved in kind of overseeing the builder. And so those organizations will hire an owner's rep to kind of stand in their place and kind of be their eyes and ears during the project to make sure things go smoothly. And that owner's rep would help them identify and hire the builder, the designer, the architect, basically help them assemble the team. And then once the project is rolling, they will help manage that process, make sure that the owner's getting what they're supposed to be getting. Essentially, the owner's rep is the project manager for the owner of the property. And even though a high-end luxury home can have just as many moving parts as a commercial project, it's just not common. So, we can have on a big residential project, even a mid-sized project, we can have an architect, designer, structural engineer, civil engineer, landscape designer, lighting designer, pool designer, geotechnical testing, surveyors, HOA stuff we have to look out for, city permitting. And while some of those players can kind of manage each other, like for example, oftentimes the architect will kind of handle helping select the engineer or the surveying company or whatever. The problem that I often see is there's not really kind of one unified vision of how everything should come together on a project and kind of what the finished picture of that project looks like. Everyone in the project can have their own agenda, right? So the architect and the designer, while they may be excellent professionals, they are looking at kind of the visuals, right? They're looking at what that finished product should look like, and they may not really comprehend the budget aspect of it as much. Or oftentimes people will hire the architect. Architects finish with their plans, and later they hire the designer, and then they hire the builder. And so all three of these parties don't really have kind of the owner's unified vision of what this thing's supposed to look like. And so you'll have these things that come out looking kind of disjointed because there's not one person really watching out for it. And the owner themselves, this is their first time they've done it, and they don't really know how to coordinate those parties. So again, not knocking into these people at all. Obviously, I have a lot of architects, designers on the show. They're all professionals and do a great job. But I think even they will admit that they don't always have the advantage of being able to kind of control that big picture. Or again, architects and designers aren't always in tune with the budget side of things. So at the end of the day, it has to be about what the customer wants. This isn't the architect or the builder or the designer's home. This is the homeowner's home, the customer's home, right? And so the job of the owner's rep, to kind of wrap this part of it up, is our job is to keep the whole team in alignment with the customer's vision. And that's the design goals, the budget goals, the schedule, and also at the end of the day, just to make sure they get the quality that they're expecting to get. So all that to say, I started Shepherd to be an owner's rep company, to offer owner's rep services here in Houston. But even after doing this for a while, I'm still really fighting this uphill battle because people don't realize they need this service oftentimes until after it's too late. So after the project falls apart. And unfortunately, the majority of my work has continued to be these rescue projects that I mentioned earlier. And only now, instead of Crafted getting hired on that, it's me getting hired through Shepherd to kind of help people back clean up and figure out what's going on, get things back on track. So I got hired after things have just fallen apart. People are mad at each other. Major problems have to be overcome. And I also do a lot of work with Toner on legal cases. So 1, 2, 5, 10 years after the house is built, the houses are falling apart. Now Toner and I get hired to step in, evaluate it, see why the home is not performing, write some reports, support the attorney. And so now people are spending tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on legal expenses. And that's a whole new level of pain and suffering for the homeowner to go through. So that's not a place that you want to be, and that's the whole reason I started this, was to kind of prevent people from having to go to that place in the long term. But yet here we are, we're still getting hired on that kind of project because those lessons just aren't getting learned. All right, so back to the podcast. The podcast got started through Shepherd, and it was meant to be an educational arm of Shepherd, if you will. And the real goal here is to teach the right way to undertake a construction project. If you've watched us for a while, I know that you've seen this graphic before. We'll pop it on the screen here. I always used to use this, especially in the first couple seasons. I would always show this and give the little spiel. But it's our formula for executing a project the right way. And it's this kind of a simple child's drawing of a house, right? On the bottom there, you get your foundation for proper planning. The left wall is your team. The right wall is communication. And the roof is proper execution. You take any one of those components away from that house, and that structure is going to fall down, right? But you have all those components in place and built sturdily, and your project is going to succeed. And I love that diagram. It really shows, and we've tried to harp on this, that like these are the things that you have to have in place if you want your home to get built the right way, not just built the right way, but to have an enjoyable process, right? So I felt like so many people are just diving headfirst into very complex projects with no guidance, not knowing who to trust. And so our whole first season on the podcast was 100% homeowner focused. And I wrote this fictitious story. If you want to go back and watch it, I encourage you to, obviously. But I made this whole fictitious story about this couple who wanted to build a house. And they made like every single mistake that you could possibly make in buying a lot, picking a builder, designing it. The builder kind of fell apart, and the whole project kind of went to crap. And so my guests and I during that first season would talk about what happened in the story, the mistakes that they made, and then how to fix it or the right way to do it. So after that first season, though, I realized that a lot of my viewers, listeners were more industry people, builders, architects, designers, people like that. And I realized that the educational opportunities are really for both sides of the spectrum. The homeowners want and need to know how to do things the right way, but then also on the contractor side, they're the ones who are often making these mistakes. And it's not always intentional. I don't think anyone goes into this wanting to screw things up or wanting to get sued or have problems. I think we all have good intentions, right? But it's just educate. Now I want to educate builders, designers, architects, that team on how to run a project the right way, because it protects them too. So now we're trying to kind of go both ways and offer some content to both homeowners and industry people, and give both of them some real value. So we've done 100 episodes now. As I mentioned, this is 101 counting this one. And our goal here really remains the same as it did at the beginning. The core of it is the same. Number one, I don't want to see people get hurt. Number two, I don't want to see them throw their money away. And number three, I don't want to see houses get built that have major performance issues, whether that's a safety issue, a health issue for the occupants. We want to build sustainable, resilient homes that people are going to enjoy for years and years to come. And the whole process of building a house should be fun. It has the opportunity to be a memorable time, and that's memorable for the right reasons, not because it's falling apart, for your family. So if you follow the advice that you hear on this podcast, I promise you that process is going to go smoother. Is it going to go perfect? No home construction project, whether it's a remodel or a new construction, is ever going to go perfect. There's always going to be mistakes. But hopefully we learn how to plan better for fewer mistakes. And then when we have those mistakes, how we're going to overcome those, how we're going to keep things on track, and how we're going to maintain those relationships, between homeowner, design team, builder, how everyone kind of gets along, and we reach that end goal of delivering a beautiful home and having happy customers. So as we head into these hopefully next 100 episodes, we're going to continue on with the same mission, these same goals, and I'm going to continue to try to find some great new guests, some fun and interesting content to bring to you, some new products that I see every year when I go to the Builder Show in Las Vegas. We always see some cool new products, learn about some cool new technology. Kind of like the Riot episode that we did a couple of weeks ago, or a few weeks ago now. There's always something new that's going to help improve the process. make things go smoother. So we're going to continue to seek out those opportunities and bring them to you, and just kind of try to add value to the homes that we're building and improving the process of building. So if you have any ideas for future episodes or for a guest that you think would be fun, I would love to hear from you. Please shoot me an email at podcast@yourprojectshepherd.com. I would love to consider those and check out some new opportunities for content, or just send us a message on social media. We do monitor those messages on Your Project Shepherd, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. Or if you're in the Houston area and you want to talk about us helping you with your project, I would love to talk to you about that. I'd love to be your owner's rep, or if you're having an issue, be your consultant and kind of help you get those things back on track. That's why I'm here. Or if you want to work with Crafted, I'd also love to talk to you about that. I think that we have a great team at Crafted. We have a great process of building homes, so I would love to talk to you about building your next home and getting you plugged into the Crafted process. So if you want to check out Crafted, we're craftedhome.com. Also, Crafted Home Houston on the social medias. So either way, I would be honored to assist you and your family for planning your next project or getting things back on track for you. So that's all I have for today. Hopefully this episode kind of gave you some background about why we're doing this and kind of what my passion is for helping people and making sure things stay on track. So please stick with us. Tune in for the next few episodes, hopefully the next 100+ episodes of the Your Project Shepherd podcast. And I look forward to seeing you again. Thanks.